Realpolitik is politics that are coercive, immoral, or Machiavellian.
Mr. McCarthy, you've done enough. Have you no sense of decency, sir?
Begins with one word. Realpolitik.
All right, this is Realpolitik. I am host, Paul Holden, captain of our spaceship of truth. We got a couple friends on the line today, actually. We got Chris the plumber. Chris, say hi.
Fixing the pipes, baby.
Boom. We got John Barbert, our lead White House correspondent. I think you're streaming from the Oval Office. Is that right?
Yeah. The lead White House correspondent, thank you.
Wait, I thought he would be reporting from Langley.
I'm
from
trying
the
to hide.
bunker. I'm from the sub-bunker of the White House.
NSA 30 floors down, sub-bunker number 6.
He's in the skiff right now. He has the one hard line out to the internet, apparently.
Thanks for being here, Chuck Todd's barber.
You're welcome.
We appreciate you. And new guest. How does he want to be referenced on our glorious pod today?
The great Cambino.
The great Cambino in the house. Cam, it is great to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Happy to be here, as my friend John says.
It is good stuff. Well, we got a couple of things to get to today. We got Mr. Donald Josiah Trump's taxes may actually hit public view at some point in the next decade. The Earn It Act is trying to out every encryption ever made on a social media platform. And then patriotism in America seems to have gone a bit awry. Where do y'all want to start today? We got all the topics, and they're all very exciting.
Take it from the top, baby.
From the top, we got Trump's taxes. So I can try and do a little bit of background, although it's kind of boring legal bullshit.
Let's do
the
the short
most important
version.
part is there is legitimately a lot of dirty, nasty stuff in Trump's financials.
Yeah,
and I think this is one of the things we've been talking about since he got impeached was if you really wanted to go after Donald Trump, go after the money. Because that man should have $0.
Yeah, and it's very likely that at some points he has had $0 is what it seems like.
Negative money. He's had negative money.
Yeah, negative. And he claims to be a billionaire, but it seems, at least from what Michael Cohen said, that a lot of what he boasts as his money, he artificially inflates. So he'll just take out big loans to say that he has a shit ton of money, and then he'll wash it all out and then claim that he has no money when it comes time to pay his taxes. So it's an interesting variation there. But I mean, through all of this, through the 2016 presidential run, and his time as president, he's never released his tax returns, and he's the only modern president to not do so. It's kind of a norm that he's broken. And originally it was, him saying that he wasn't going to release it because he was under audit, and he didn't want to, release taxes while he's being audited. And then now that he's elected, it's, clearly doesn't matter to the American people because they elected me without releasing my tax return, so why would I do it? And recently, the Supreme Court has ruled on 3 cases this week, all of which have to do with his tax returns. 2 were Congress investigating him, and then 1 was New York's DA investigating him around essentially laundering money for hush money payments to Stormy Daniels, the porn star. And in the New York case, the Supreme Court ruled that they could get his tax returns and could get his financial records from Deutsche Bank for part of this investigation, and that, the president's not a god, which they were essentially claiming. And then on the 2 congressional ones, they said that Congress can investigate him, but they put a really narrow scope around it. So it was actually a bit of a win for Trump in those cases, and they're being sent to lower courts.
Do you think our founding fathers could have fathomed a sentence like the president paying off a porn star with illegal funds that were probably money laundered? Do you think that was on one of their bingo cards for the future?
I think it was on their bingo cards. I mean, if you look at everything that they put in the Constitution and the amendments, a lot of it has to do with ensuring that politicians weren't corrupt and that they weren't acting, on behalf of a foreign power, because we still had mad, Britain paranoia, as well as, making sure they weren't acting, on basically any interests other than the American people's, which is kind of where this norm came into play in the first place.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they'd probably just be like, wait, he has a mistress? Why do people care?
That's probably pretty close.
They're like, yeah,
There was
I've got
prostitution,
those.
though, back then.
They'd be like, Stormy Daniels is a cool name.
Well, they'd also probably be curious about what a porn star is, since they didn't have video.
True.
Storm is an Avenger, right? No, she's an X-Men.
It's a good Avenger.
She's X-Men.
Yeah, Stormy Daniels
Yeah,
is a
that's a
good
good
Avenger name.
But I mean, anyone who's seen the musical Hamilton on Disney Plus now knows that they were scandals related to having affairs and payoffs.
Yes, and as we know, Hamilton is a good source.
It's the best source. I don't think there's a better one.
It's the only historical source we can use anymore.
I understand it's pure fact, is what I've heard.
Yeah.
But anyways, to go back to more serious matters, this is one that I'm genuinely excited for, but I'm also very cautiously pessimistic that anything will actually come out of this, because, everything that, I guess the one thing is that most of this isn't coming from the Congress, right? These are coming from other outside organizations trying to get a hand onto Trump, so that's a good thing. But I'm skeptical we're going to get a lot of juice out of this, because if you start following that money, baby, what have we been saying? No one knows where the money leads. And when it comes to Donald Trump, he got a lot of money tentacles. And those tentacles go into some of the most disgusting parts of international finance.
But it is an interesting thing, though, because Trump's relationship with Deutsche Bank is one of the things that came up during the New York investigation, which it's a grand jury investigation, so it's very secret. No one really knows what it's about. We just know that Michael Cohen flipped, and he's said to have given legitimate evidence that proves that Donald Trump, Don Jr., and higher-ups in the Trump organization, which is what's being investigated, were aware of these hush money payments and were directly ordering Cohen to essentially facilitate these false bank transactions to pay off these porn stars, which is very, very illegal. But it's something that people have been talking about for a long time. Why was Deutsche Bank lending to Donald Trump? Because Donald Trump had gone bankrupt so many times, no one else would lend to him. And Deutsche Bank was the last lender that would give him a loan, and they were giving him massive loans. So the question is, why were they doing that? And Deutsche is also known for being incredibly corrupt, so there's likely some really sketchy shit going on in that relationship that he doesn't want to come to light. And like you were saying, Chris, it involves some very big players in international finance, and it also involved Trump using one side of the bank to get the loan, and then getting a loan from the other side of the bank to pay that loan back. Like, he was doing some weird stacking within the same bank. And there's really no reason that any bank should ever let anyone do that ever.
Yeah, like there wasn't some kind of red flag that went up when it's like, this guy has like 10 loans out from our bank. Maybe he probably has more than that.
Yeah, and he was paying the other loans back with the other loans from the bank. He was just going to different arms of the bank to do so.
Yeah, his financial is the way he runs his financials is Ponzi scheme.
It's just a massive house of cards. But the bummer of this is that likely if we ever see these documents, it won't be for years. This has to go through the New York grand jury. They have to actually get the files, which they're going to hold that shit up. So it's probably going to be years before these come to light. I'm personally hoping, because I think it's really interesting, that the moment that the grand jury gets it, that it's leaked by someone. So, fingers crossed there that it just kind of gets forwarded immediately to a reporter who then publishes it. So we'll see what happens.
Watch him.
Isn't it incredible that no one has leaked that information out of Deutsche Bank. I mean, frickin' Ed Snowden leaked military NSA data, and I can't get a tax return from Donald Trump. Ed Snowden just kind of like showed us the whole underbelly, right? He taught us this is all the horrible shit your government is doing to you as far as the surveillance state goes. I can't get a tax return.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's WikiLeaks when you really need them?
Well, WikiLeaks loves Trump, doesn't he?
I mean,
he hates Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, it's more of a hating Hillary than a loving Trump thing, and being generally anti-establishment.
Yeah. It would be great if Assange would drop something about that, but I mean, Snowden was able to smuggle
in prison.
out.
He's not dropping anything.
Well, if he could get his little Russian GRU Guccifer to leak him some info, but there's no reason Russia would do that. It would just be fun if they did. Cause more chaos, right? Chaos theory for Russia.
Russia.
Russia. I'm always going to bring up Russia because I'm a little establishment shill. You know me.
Big time.
But what about Putin?
Awful.
But we'll see what happens. Was there anything else y'all had on that one before we move on to our
I was
going to
say
cautiously optimistic.
I was going to say, do we think that that any future president is going to release their tax returns? I think Trump has set a convenient precedent for future presidents who don't want to do that.
Yeah, but like Joe Biden did, and if Joe Biden wins, then I think somebody eventually is not going to do it, right? I don't know how much power the establishment is going to reestablish. If they take a pretty powerful step forward, I think we'll see that norm put back together. I think we'll see a lot of the old norms put back together, but I just don't think their norms no longer fit our world.
Yeah, well, I mean, Trump has cracked open the door for all sorts of eccentric personalities and extremely wealthy people to make their way into politics. And so by opening the floodgates to that, if there were a Bloomberg or, other people of that caliber of wealth, they've got stuff that they don't want people seeing. So I think we're going to see more of that in the future.
It used to be gauche for a billionaire or a multi-millionaire to run for president.
Yeah.
You just didn't do it.
Now it's the norm almost. Well, and that was the example I was going to bring up as well, was Bloomberg, because Bloomberg did not release his tax returns. And that was a big point in the debate that he completely fell flat on his face on, where he was claiming, he basically said, I'm so rich, I can't really get that together for you, but, I got people working on it, so, it'll happen when it happens, which is basically exactly what Donald Trump said. And I think we're now at the point where, the establishment folks will do it because realistically, they probably don't have that much to hide. Not that they don't do sketchy things and they aren't part of the revolving door, but I don't think that they are savvy enough or dirty enough financially or really have enough money to engage in the type of schemes that a Bloomberg or a Trump may. So, next time that someone like Trump or someone like Bloomberg comes up, they're going to know they can get away with it because it really wasn't that big of a deal. The only people screaming about it were the people who already hated Trump, but everyone who liked him didn't really give a shit. And it was the same thing for Bloomberg, where, people who hated Bloomberg with a deep passion were like, where are your tax returns? Release everyone from the NDAs. But then people who liked Bloomberg were like, who gives a shit? So I don't know if it's I think, like you said, the crack is there now, and it's going to be exploited in the future. All right, well, it looks like John just got called away, so everyone, you are stuck with me, Chris, and Cam now. And speaking of, I don't even have one for this. I'm just going to skirt right into it. So the Earn It Act is so fun, Chris. You've read a bit about this, right?
Not enough to say anything too in depth on it, but they could possibly be forcing software companies, VPNs, different encryption methods to have backdoors into people's whatever it is that they're encrypting. I don't even know what EarnIt stands for.
Oh, this is so good. So it was put up by friend of the pod, Lindsey Graham, senator from South Carolina. And it stands for Eliminating Abusive and Rampant Neglect of Interactive Technologies Act. I fucking hate these acts.
Nice.
But basically what it's stated to be about is child abuse and child pornography, right? Which everyone can get behind. That's a terrible thing that should be stopped. But what it does practically, and if it were to be enacted, is that it says to all the major technology companies, so your Facebooks, your Twitter, any of these, WhatsApp, these encrypted messaging apps, Signal is another big one, that they are going to have to follow a specific set of guidelines. The guidelines are referred to as voluntary, and they're created by an unelected committee that's ran by Bill Barr, who notoriously hates encryption and says that it's one of the worst things, and it halts all these investigations because they aren't able to break into people's iPhones or break into their Signal messaging apps and stuff like that. So they're going to make these sets of rules that they need to follow, which gives sweeping controls over reducing encryption levels, creating backdoors for the FBI to be able to get into your phone. And if they don't follow these quote unquote voluntary rules that this committee sets up, then they are going to be able to be sued in civil and criminal court for everything that's on their platform. So as it stands today, if I were to go post a death threat to Chris the plumber on Twitter or on Reddit, neither of those platforms are responsible. I am responsible. I just committed a crime, and I am held responsible for that. And then Reddit can take it down, and they have systems to take it down. But the fact that it was posted on their platform, they're not criminally liable for it. This will make them criminally liable, which means that these regulations aren't voluntary. They're mandatory unless they want to be fucking sued, and unless their people want to be thrown in jail and they want to lose millions and millions of dollars. So what this means practically is that they're going to have to give the Fed a backdoor into all of their systems, and we're going to lose encryption. And they have very strategically chosen child pornography as the stated purpose of this act, because no one's going to come out and say, oh yeah, that's something that we shouldn't be fighting, because obviously everyone thinks that you should. But what it does
is kind of like terrorism in the Patriot Act, all right?
Yeah, exactly.
You pick a terrible, awful thing and being like, see, we're doing it for this reason. That's why we're going to trample on everybody's rights, because we have to capture these very difficult people to catch.
Yeah.
But don't worry, we won't use it on you for now.
And until they do, because if there's one thing that we know about the federal government and the FBI, it's that if they are given a tool for one thing, they will use it for everything else. And that also applies to the police department. So that's why protests, they were using AI and facial recognition to find people with outstanding warrants in protests, and then use that as a reason to go in and break up the protest and arrest these people. They constantly abuse any little piece of technology they're given for one little reason and expand it out to everything. And this is going to allow any investigation from the police to be able to break into your personal shit, because the encryption is no longer going to be there.
I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to say on this one. I mean, it's more kind of oversight, nanny state of our lives.
Yeah.
And sometimes a nanny state is good, right? It's nice to be swaddled and get my bottom powdered and feed me breast milk. Right, Paul?
That's right. But this is the nanny state where they put a tracker in your arm.
We like to be nannied, right?
No, I'm not going to respond to that. But this
it's
is
more like
where
an anal probe, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's closer to that, and it's gonna end privacy on the internet, basically. And it just passed unanimously in the Senate Judiciary Committee, and it's going to the floor.
Maybe
Unanimous.
we didn't deserve the internet as it was. We just couldn't do it. We get a bastardized, awful, everyone has some kind of code that is their unique signature, which we kind of already have. Yeah, your IP address.
Yeah.
It's just hard to find that information unless you know what you're looking for. You know, most of us don't know what our IP address is. I don't know what it is. But here pretty soon you might. Like, this is your IP account. And you just always have to keep track of that. If I go onto somebody else's network, I have to sign in using my IP address. Kind of like my social security number. But this is the internet version.
Yeah. And there's, a piece of it where, yes, you can go on websites today and you are tracked and they're able to see through your provider, where you've been going and what you've been doing, but your communication is encrypted, right? I can go on Signal and I can have private communications with, Chris or Cam, and they can't use those against me. But if I were to go on Signal, or if I were to go on WhatsApp after this is passed, and I were to make a joke, entirely in jest that maybe is, anti-government or like burn it down or some stupid shit like that, jokes that people just make with each other about the government sometimes.
You wouldn't make a joke like that. You're from the establishment.
I am, but let's just say I were more radical like yourself and I were to make that joke. That could be used against me in the court of law. They could break into that communication. They could take it completely out of context, and they could bring it up in court if they were trying to charge me with something, which, maybe one day they will because they're just trying to throw dissenters in jail. It's like a major issue. And, well, the thing is, I feel like a lot of people haven't really heard about it because no one's really been reporting on it. And it kind of reminds me of
there's a reason
the
for
Patriot
that,
Act.
right?
Yeah.
I'm in my COVID bunker. So
That's the game plan. They can't talk about this stuff because people go nuts. What was the net neutrality? I bet you remember that campaign now.
I recall it, yeah.
I mean, it was everywhere. Everyone was signing, letters and doing all kinds of, kind of organizing, internet organizing at least around, I think there was like a handful, I think it was like Reddit and Pornhub and like a host of other websites all like shut down for a day or two. So it'd be like, this is what net neutrality would do to us.
Is this one of those things they're just going to sneak through?
Yeah.
And we're going to hear about it after it's too late?
Yeah, that's what I think.
I definitely think it's going to be snuck through. I mean, no one's talking about it except for, the internet brats out there. And
the internet noobs, right? All the babies.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm like, they are going to massively expand government power just like they did with the Patriot Act. And they're going to claim it's for this one tiny reason, right? And that tiny reason is a huge reason.
Legitimate
to go
reason,
after
right? It's always legitimate.
It's always a legitimate reason, but it is going to give them access for everything. Everything they want to investigate. They will now have a back door. And they have already tried to force Apple to give them backdoors into phones. Barr, who's going to oversee this committee if it's passed, the AG, has already tried to force Apple to do this. And already tried to force them to update every iOS, every single iPhone in your pocket. William Barr wanted updated with a backdoor for the FBI. So that they could get into one phone, right? One single phone. And there's a reason for that.
And it's a tough nut to crack because I'm also at the same time, I always have this sense of, you know what though? Fuck Apple too though. Fuck Facebook too. Fuck Twitter too. Like, if these weren't such awful actors, and yeah, I'm glad that they're like, all this data we have stolen from this person is somewhat private, right? Like, thank you, Facebook, for not, giving my private information to the government, but they've sold it to everyone else. Twitter has sold my information to everyone else. And now you got like the Chinese government making TikTok and just stole how much data from millions of people around the earth, let alone just the US. And so it is always a little difficult for me to be like, oh, boo-hoo, poor Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think it's poor Twitter and Facebook. I think it's poor us. It's poor users.
Right.
There's going to be no safe spaces for communication anymore. Every platform that is functioning in America is going to have to abide by these rules.
You're just going to have to do it offline, baby. You gotta go for a hike in the woods. What do the rich do, dude? They go golfing.
I'm just going to start sending letters to people, I guess. But it's not like,
don't put it
Reddit
in writing.
decides...
Are you insane? Are you insane?
No, dude, it's super secret writing. I'm going to make my own code.
Oh, there you go.
It's going to be in invisible ink.
Ultra secret writing.
Yeah. Can't crack it.
I forgot about that.
If you write it in urine, right? And then you hold a flame underneath the piece of paper, then the words show up. But otherwise, you can't see it.
So with the Untitled Act, is this something that's going to make it easier for, say, like, the huge data breaches we've had, big deals, people's data getting released out in the public? Is this going to make that even more, possible?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Basically, what it's going to do is it's going to incentivize all of these platforms, and by incentivize, I mean they won't be, charged with like criminal malfeasance or anything like that, to reduce the encryption on their application, so making it easier to hack into. So, like, yes, it 100% will make it easier for a bad actor to hack into any of these systems. And steal everyone's information and leak it out. That's 100% going to be a byproduct of this as well.
I can't wait.
Next thing, all right, patriotism in America. Chris, I know this was a bit of a pet peeve of yours, so I can kind of let you take it away on this one, and then we can jump in.
So this last 4th of July, the one that just happened, I didn't do a whole lot, just had a bonfire, cooked some food, had some beers, just had a couple of friends over. We all stayed socially distanced outside around the fire and, listened to people shoot off fireworks and whatnot. But I saw, especially on the social medias, a lot of hate, a lot of like anti-patriotism, a lot of I don't feel good about being an American, so how can I properly participate in 4th of July and things like that. And so one of the things I kind of wanted to discuss a little bit is this idea of there being kind of a duality in America, that there are two Americas. There's the American ideal and there's the actually existing America, the actually existing United States. I actually kind of stole this idea from the wokesters. They have something called capitalism versus actually existing capitalism, right? So capitalism is free markets and there's competition and, you have an absolute advantage and I have an actual advantage and, there's market supply and there's market demand and like this is the general way capitalism goes, right? But in actually existing capitalism, what you have is cronyism, greed, monopolies, things of this sort, right? So it doesn't really act the way we envision. And that's kind of always been my idea of America, right? There's the ideal of America, and though we rarely live up to it, that ideal is deeply ingrained, right? It's a slave owner writing all men are created equal. And so that dichotomy has always been in America. And so I think that's something that we kind of all need to take a deep look into, because I think a lot of folks don't see that actually existing America versus America the ideal. They just kind of all mash it together, right? Well, the ideal is dead. The ideal has never died. It's something that we have to envision and know that we are currently taking the steps for us to get there, but that we are a long way off for the mass of the American society. And I would argue, if America is able to kind of have some sort of retribution, some sort of real healing of the deep divides, and that's racial, that's economic, that's, I would argue, in some cases religious. And if we're able to do that, I think it acts as a teachable moment for the rest of society, that, and by society I mean the world, that still somewhat seems and sees the American dream, right? So anyways, that was a long-winded setup, and so I'm down to hear whatever y'all think.
Yeah, well, let me ask this to you and Cam, because I think that this is probably one that Cam can definitely jump in on as well. Is this sentiment, and I totally agree with you, I think there was a lot of, I guess, non-patriotic sentiment. I don't really know the term to use for it, but just general almost depression around the country, especially given George Floyd and the protests and riots that occurred. And to me, part of it is almost people just now waking up to the fact that that ideal that we were kind of instilled with growing up, in a lot of ways, I do consider it state propaganda. I mean, I remember watching the little cartoon when I was a kid of how capitalism worked, and it's like stuck in my brain. It was these two guys selling refrigerators. It was like a little cartoon, and then one guy had this big fancy one, and then the other guy was trying to compete with them, so they dropped their prices, and they kept competing with each other, and then the consumer, wins out. And that's just the beauty of capitalism. And, you work hard, and you start your business, and you bust your ass, and you compete, and then you do great, right? And then now you've lived out the American dream. And it's a particular amount of cognitive dissonance if you try and believe that in the same world that, a Jared Kushner is also a fucking millionaire, who is the most inept person in the world, yet through, familial relations, he's been able to be loaded and be in the White House. Or the fact that, 10% of the country owns 98% of the stock market.
Did you know, I was listening to something that said that Jared Kushner is the de facto president?
I have not heard that.
Like, if anyone has any kind of general questions, and for whatever reason the Donald isn't answering, you just go to Jared for an answer.
If that's true.
So this motherfucker is running our country.
And he has no idea what he's the most incompetent human.
Who else would be doing it? Who else would be doing it?
I don't think it's Trump.
Other than like Ivanka.
Yeah.
other than those two people, who has the trust of anyone in the Donald circle who would willingly make a decision on something?
Yeah.
If it's immigration, it's probably who's the weasel? Who's the immigration weasel?
I can't remember his name right now.
Stephen
Miller?
Stephen Miller. I figured if I kept on seeing Steven, it would eventually
it'll
come out.
pop up.
Stephen
Miller. That jackass.
That little shit weasel, dude.
But I think that what we're seeing right now is...
He gets to answer the questions on immigration.
Yeah.
But other than that...
But what we're seeing right now is we're seeing American capitalism playing out in the White House. The pure cronyism of the whole system. It's all about who you know.
Right.
Like think about any job that you've gotten. Capitalism tells us it's a bunch of independent workers functioning in a market. And there are all these companies competing for their labor, and they have to pay them good enough, but not pay them too much. And you find the best job that's suited for you, and then you get that job because you have a particular skill set. That's fucking bullshit. The only way any human has ever gotten a goddamn job in this country is by knowing someone. 80% of jobs go to someone who had networked within that company. You had a buddy who worked there. You have an old boss who worked there. That's not the way labor works. So it's not the way that companies work, and it's not the way that capital works. It's all a fucking lie. And we're watching it play out in real time in our political system, in our White House. And I think a lot of people are just now coming to the realization that the system does not actually represent the people. Because if it did, we wouldn't have riots every 10 years about race relations in this country. We wouldn't have this massive wealth inequality. We wouldn't have a president who's filling his administration with either his corporate buddies or his direct family. And I think that you're right in that there is an issue of people not being able to combine what they've always been told and what they've probably believed. And maybe deep down they know, there's a portion of it that's bullshit, but we're seeing now that it was all entirely bullshit. And it makes it really hard to be like, oh, hell yeah, let's celebrate Independence Day, I think.
And I guess I agree with you in that kind of assessment, but I guess I'm just a little disappointed that wasn't a more widely accepted view of patriotism, right? That you don't have to celebrate actually existing America, right? You can celebrate the ideal that was America. I mean, I was worshiping pagans around a bonfire, dude, but I did it America as fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I poured out some red wine for Bacchus.
Boom. Money.
I pledged allegiance to the flag.
Money.
So, yeah, anyways, going back to the general idea, I just hope that you're right, that this is kind of a national kind of, hopefully it ends up being cathartic, right? Hopefully it ends up being something that builds up the society as a whole. But I was just a little bummed that so many people, and it's like a lot of blue check marks on Twitter that were definitely like leading the drumbeat on this. I'm really sad to be an American. I'm so disappointed. It's like, yeah, guess what? Things have been shitty for the last 4 years. But guess what? Things have been shitty for the last 10 years. Things have been shitty for the last 20 years. Things have been shitty for the last 30 years. We have been swimming in an ocean of shit. And we're just now like, things are really bad. Things are so terrible. All of this stuff has been going on. None of this is new. oh, we got a mean orange clown in office, and he says mean things on Twitter, and it's just really hard to be an American. I'm just over it, dude. It's like, I want some motherfuckers riding on a horse with a 6-shooter, dude. Let's go. Bring the sheriff back to town, dude.
Yeah.
Bring the man with no name.
Mm-hmm.
Give me Black Bart. Yeah, dude. Bring me more guns.
That's what we're missing. It's not quite a Mexican standoff yet. We need everyone to be strapped. Well, I think
everyone pointing a gun at themselves is the safest way to be.
Yeah. No, and I completely agree with you, Chris. I think I'm just trying to frame it in more of a positive light because I'm in quarantine by myself every day in my house, and I need to try and stay positive, otherwise I will collapse. But it's almost like America right now is, well, I'm specifically more like privileged America or the establishment, or if you want to get into race relations, white America is realizing how shitty things have been. And I mean, look at back what the Black Panthers were saying, man. In the fucking 60s, they were talking about how the system was not meant for them. Look back in the 20s in the race riots in Tulsa. That was people who realized that the system was not meant for them, and they were trying to make a separate system that would work for them. But a big portion of the country right now is going through the stages of grief, of dealing with the fact that their framework with which they viewed the country was a lie. Like, you denied it, and then you're angry about it, you're out protesting, you're bargaining. That's the next one. We're trying to be like, oh, well, what if we like defund the police, or we do this and then that would fix it, or maybe this will do it. And I think we hit depression on July 4th. And what we need to do, like you were saying, is we need to accept the fact that what we are celebrating is not what America is. We're celebrating what America can be, because it can exactly right. be better. But it takes effort from each and every one of us. We have to care. We have to organize. We have to actually show up. And, it's not just about voting, but you do need to show up to vote, because most people don't even do that. But you have to do everything outside of voting as well. It's about collective aid. It's about being there for your community. It's about engaging in the people that live right next to you, right? And that's how we can enact change. But in America, we have systematically broken those structures that brought people together. We've busted the unions. We've busted community organizing. And we're one of the only industrialized nations that doesn't have any sort of collective bargaining for its people. So the establishment gets to do whatever the fuck they want, and they get to signal, and they get to wear their kente cloths, and they get to kneel and act like they just, made America better without putting in any work, because we don't make them put in any work. If we want to make America
that's
better,
some of it too, right?
Yeah,
the
but last point,
aspect of all this.
Yeah, last point, and then you can go. But like, if we want to make America better, primary the fuck out of your reps and your senators on both the state and national level that have been sitting their asses in a chair for 30 years and no one's challenged them. Why do you think they don't do anything? Because they're comfortable as fuck. Make them work for it or kick them out.
Yep.
The end.
At least it'll scare them, right? Yeah. At the very least, you scare them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so, I mean, I was just... Yeah. I think I'll take your establishment view on this one, Paul Holden.
Well, I mean, is that an establishment view? I'm talking about attacking these. Just everything I do is establishment.
Everything you do is establishment.
I just can't help it, can I?
No, you can't. Nothing you will do will ever help it.
That sucks. But
it's inoperable.
Yeah, but I was listening to Useful Idiots with is it Buttar, the gentleman who's running against Pelosi?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you haven't listened to him, check out Useful Idiots. They have a really good interview with him. But I mean, if there's anyone that I think can really, exemplify what it means to push against the establishment, I think he was really doing a great job discussing it and talking about how we need to make these people realize, these people being these assholes who are running our government, that they need to respond to the American people. Because right now they don't feel like they have to. They think, Pelosi thinks ripping up Trump's speech is enough, or standing over a table and pointing at him and getting a good photo op and everyone retweets it. And oh my God, look how amazing she is. She's fighting against this evil Donald Trump is enough. It's not enough.
The performative gesture. Oh, Nancy Pelosi has so many great masks, doesn't she? And she wears them all the time to show Donald Trump she's not afraid to wear a mask.
But she hasn't done shit. Cam, do you have anything you wanted to add in on this bad boy?
Yeah, I just think they're so far removed from actual what normal people are going through that they're just gonna hop on Twitter and rip up speeches, and for some reason it's working. It's working for them. We're not really doing anything about it.
Yeah. Well, it's the culture war, man. It's everyone has picked their tribe, and it's all about fighting the other tribe. And you got your little politician that's on a pedestal, and like, oh, look what she's owning the Republicans, or Trump's owning the libs, and it's not actually expecting anything from them except this sort of performance. That's all that.
And who ends up getting owned? We're the ones that get owned.
Yeah. Nancy Pelosi.
The American people are the ones who always get owned.
Yeah. Pelosi still has her, $100 million, right? She is loaded. And she's still got her little fridge full of ice cream. All right, Chris, what are you consuming lately?
So this is actually, I'm going to show my basic bitch here. I was listening to an episode of Chapo Trap House, and their guest was discussing how he really wanted to go back to the years of Entourage, because Entourage America was really one of the top Americas out there. And so I was just kind of was interested by that statement and wanted to go ahead and start watching it. So I'm actually a couple seasons in, and I get it now, right? It was just no stakes. There was no one really had any cares. The biggest care was getting into your next movie. What Ducati am I going to buy this episode? Which, hot actress am I going to date this episode? And that's what the whole episode is about, right? And you put a couple of these episodes together, and then they have a season. And that's it. And that's the show. And it's just a bunch of rich
for 6 years
actors and actresses for 6 years doing rich, hot actor and actress things, and nothing happens. The stakes are never big, and nobody ever grows. And we're just kind of all the exact same human being as when we started this whole thing 6 years ago. And that's Entourage. Maybe a little bit richer. Well, some of us. But yeah, so that's what I've been consuming. Entourage as a metaphor for the America we could be under Joe Biden.
On Entourage America again.
We can
make America Entourage again.
Well,
How was the Entourage movie? Did anyone see that?
I didn't watch that.
It was like the whole show.
It was
same
thing. Was exactly what you just described. It
was exactly what I just described,
someone.
Except it was an hour and a half straight instead of 6 20-minute episodes.
I haven't thought about that show in so long, and I mean, I can't think of a single plot line that wasn't what you just described, except for like the time that Turtle was worried that he would get like piss test for his Xbox competition for the boxing game. And then he tried
Again,
that was a
the
whole
stakes
plot line.
were low. How low are those stakes?
He was trying to get someone to give him clean urine because he was worried that his weed would be like a performance-enhancing drug or something.
We've all been there, though. We can relate with Turtle.
We're all have a little turtle in our heart.
We do, man. We do. I'm more of an E, though, I feel like. The suit.
You're definitely...
I'm the
dude,
suit.
You're definitely E. With a little drama mixed in.
Yeah, I'm like 10% drama.
You think you're Vince, but you're actually drama.
God damn it. I hate you. All right. I'll go and then Cam, you're up. But I've been nonstop consuming news and podcasts and really depressing books on the CIA murdering everyone for the pod. So I've been trying to find some mindless TV, and I stumbled across Doom Patrol, which is...
Is it any good?
It's actually pretty good. It takes a couple episodes to hit a stride. It took me probably 5 episodes before I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty good. But it takes the don't give a fuck comic book thing to the next level.
That's too many episodes.
Well, the
5
rest are
episodes
still
is too many
good.
episodes.
It took me 5 or 6 before I was like, oh my god, I actually love this. The rest were entertaining and they were funny. But once I got halfway through the first season, I was like, I'm in, and I'm sticking with this shit forever. But it's got Brendan Fraser. It's got Timothy Dalton from Penny Dreadful. He was a big reason why I watched it. But it's like Deadpool on crack. You know, the no fucks given. It truly does not give a shit about the fact that it's a comic book or about the fact that it's a TV show, and is constantly making fun of itself, making fun of the industry, making fun of the network it's on. And it's really, honestly, a story about mental health, which I thought was pretty cool. And a bunch of really fucked up people.
Dude, we just did 2 HBO shows. We really need to start getting paid.
We need to, man. All we do,
really need to. HBO, home box office.
Pay us. Pay us.
Pay us.
Well, I got
Pay
HBO
us.
Max for free with my internet, and now I've just been binging the shit out of everything on it. But
pay us.
Good show, man. Check it out. Cam, what have you been consuming, man? What do you recommend to the good people of Realpolitik?
Not a lot lately, apparently, as far as news goes, because I was a little behind on all the topics today. As far as TV, I've gone back and did you guys ever watch Scrubs?
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Been getting all my race relation from JD and Turk. That's the America I want right there.
That's how you get woke.
Yeah.
That's how you get woke, dude.
Chocolate bear.
Get yourself a Turkleton.
Yeah, but hadn't seen the show in a long time.
Does it hold up?
It's okay. I'm only about 2 seasons through right now.
Favorite small character?
I don't know. Janitor. I think I like Janitor. He was dirty.
I was always a bit of a Ted boy.
Yeah.
Loved me some Ted,
Did you
dude.
see Past, the actor, recently?
No.
Yeah, sad day.
I was always he had the voice of an angel.
I think that might have been why I started watching the show again. I think I saw that news and was like, oh, I haven't seen Scrubs in.
Paul Holden, who is your favorite small character?
I don't remember his name, but it was the guy that they kept playing the Turner and Hooch pranks on. I think his name was Hooch.
Yeah.
Dr. Hooch. And then
That's right.
they secretly partnered him up with Dr. Turner for surgery. And then they kept fucking with, his shampoo. And then he turned out to be like a crazy sociopath who was threatening to murder everyone. That guy was the best. It was so funny.
One of my other favorite jokes they did was Snoop Dogg intern.
Also great. Could that play?
One of the best.
Could that play nowadays? I don't think you could do that still.
You could do some of those.
Yeah.
You could do. They were just. It's another one, that is just. Those early 2000s had some interesting TV.
Well, it was like The Office. Like, you couldn't say half that shit anymore.
Couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. The language that is dropped on Entourage would get it canceled. I've heard more R's and F's in 3 seasons than I've heard in years. In years. And like, it was one of those where it's like physically slapped hearing an F. And I was like, oh shit. They just said FAG.
I forgot.
And then they had you with
say that.
RETARD, dude. Can't say
Did
that
not
one.
say that. Not cool, man. Not cool. Wow.
Both of them.
Wow.
No good. And they are just dropping them like it's hot.
Yeah.
They apologized on Twitter for this.
I don't think I've seen the Entourage. I definitely haven't seen the Jeremy Piven. I'm sorry for the language I used on Entourage.
Oh, the old days when you could use all the
Yeah, the good old days, right?
the anti-gay vulgarity slurs. Yeah. Not good. Don't support. Don't cancel.
Don't
please.
support. We don't support that kind of language on Real Politik. I'm sorry I spelled them.
We're simply reflecting on how society has changed in such a short time for the better. That's all we have to say on that matter. Well, thank you for listening to Real Politik. You can email us. The new email is realpolitikcrew@gmail.com. You can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/realpolitik. Find us on Twitter, Paul Realpolitik. And really what you can do if you love the pod, please share it with a friend and go drop us 5 stars on Apple. It helps other folks find the show. That's all we got, y'all. So thanks for listening.
HBO, pay me.
Pay me, HBO, you bastards. The end.
Later.